Hi and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to set up our Contabo server. We're going to create the account. If you want to get to this page on Contabo, just go to bizanosa.com/Contabo and the link is in the description. I will choose this option. You can choose any option that you want. You can even choose any of these other servers. You can use any of this dedicated server or virtual dedicated server, whichever one you want to use. Go ahead and try it. Now for me, I want to try it with this, and this is the one that I'm going to use. I will just click there on select. These are the settings you're going to get. Now, initial contract period, there you can choose whichever you want. The region, just note that with the region, the monthly price is going to vary. So the monthly charge for your server is going to vary based on the location of the server. If I choose a data center in the United States, you can see the price, the monthly price is going to increase by that. If I choose one in Asia, the price is going to increase by $3. So just choose one that is most appropriate for you and your visitors. We have chosen this region of Germany. The next option is we need to choose an operating system. Okay, look at all the operating systems that are available here, and you can choose whichever one you want to use. For me, I want to use Ubuntu, but the best option for Ubuntu, if you don't want to use Ubuntu, you can always use Debian. If this was my server, I would definitely be using Debian, but I'm just using Ubuntu because I know most people prefer to use it, and that's why I want to use it here. You can see the Linux server operating systems that I recommend. The link will be in the description. Now I will start with Ubuntu 20.04 and always use an LTS version. If your VPS doesn't have 20.04, then just use the latest, the previous one, which is 18.04. But of course, you should probably use the latest LTS version of Ubuntu. And so we're going to use 20.04, which is the latest LTS version. And then this, we're going to leave that as it is. IP, you can add another IP. If you want to add an additional IP, it will be $4 a month. So your monthly charges will also increase by that based on the IP addresses that you add. So we're going to choose only one IP address. And then backup space, if you want to add backup, you can do that, and the prices are there. If you want your server to be managed by Contabo, you can see that's the monthly price. You can monitor your server and see how it's performing. If anything is happening that you don't want, any resources are being overused, you will get alerts for that. And you can use SSL if you want to add SSL, but please don't bother with this because you're going to install a control panel, and with most control panel nowadays you'll get Let's Encrypt, which is already set up in most control panels. So don't worry about SSL. You can set that up using the free control panel that you're going to install. And then setup, if you want to fast track the setup, you can choose this. This is going to make sure that your account is set up faster, but who cares, right? We are patient, we'll wait. And then how many servers do you want to set up? If you want multiple servers, you can choose the number of servers that you want to set up. Maybe you want to set up multiple, you can do that there. So that's pretty much it. Let me just confirm that everything is as I chose it. So Ubuntu there, I'll just go next. So you can see I will need to log in. So I already have an account with Contabo. If you don't have an account, just go ahead and create yours. And if they ask you for any details to verify your identity, just send them something. You can send them anything that has your actual physical address on it, like a billing, any form of billing that you have, water bill or an electric bill. You can send that. You can just scan it and send it, and it will be used to verify your identity. Private, individual, let's forget about that. I want to log in. I'm already a customer. So if you want to log in, in future, if you want to log into Contabo, you can just go to my.contabo.com. So let's come in here and do my.contabo.com. Enter. And that's going to redirect you to the login page for Contabo. So when you're here, you can just click here, log in here if you're already a customer. I don't remember my password. I'm going to reset mine here. So just log in and we'll meet in the next screen. Log in here. Let's see. So once I reset my password, let me come back and log in here. Okay, so I'm logged in. If you have a coupon code, just click there and add one. That's it. You'll see the amount you should pay. and I will just order and pay. I will just wait for them to finish provisioning the server, and as soon as it's provisioned, what's going to happen is you're going to get all the details that you need to log into your server. You're going to receive them in your email. Everything that you need will be sent to your email. And before this happens, let's say your account is new, what they will need, or what they may need, is some kind of document just to prove yourself. Okay, so as I said, if they ask you for anything to prove your physical address, just send any kind of billing. You can send an electric bill, water bill, any kind of bill that has your physical address on it, and they will use that to verify you. And as soon as you're verified, they will create your account and they will create your server, and all the details will be sent to you. If you don't want to deal with all this verification stuff, just choose a VPS in America. You can choose something like Valtra. That's one that I use a lot, and I can definitely recommend them. They have very fast servers, even though their offers are not as good as Contabo. So let's just wait and see if it's going to get provisioned for me as soon as possible. As soon as you log into your Contabo account, once they have sent you all the details, you'll see your servers here. Any VPSs that you have, any services that you have with Contabo, you can just click there and you'll see the details for all the servers listed. And you can also look at the VPSs that you have right there. They will be listed here. If you did choose VDS, then you can look at that as well. Right now, there isn't much I can do. Therefore, I'm just going to wait for an email from Contabo, and once it comes, we can begin setting up the server in the next video. So what I'm waiting for is an IP address, a root user, and a password. So once all that is set up for me, I can start setting up my server. And as I said, we're going to use this post to set up our server. Okay, so the link for this will be in the description. If it's not there, just remind me and I will add it, or you can just go to Google or Bing and search for Bizanosa Ubuntu server setup, and you're going to find this post. Okay, so for me, I'm going to use Git Bash to set up my server instead of using Party. Okay, you can see this is Party. I'm not going to use Party. I'm going to use Git Bash. So you can just use Terminal if you're on Mac, and you can use Terminal as well if you are on Linux. So I will see you in the next video when we start setting up the server. I'm just waiting for the details from Contabo. All the details I need will be sent to my email as soon as the server is set up for me. So if you don't want to deal with all this waiting process from Contabo, you can use a different VPS, and American VPSs usually don't have this wait period. An example is DigitalOcean, Valtra. I've used both, and you can use them if you want to. If you want to set up a server just to try something, go ahead and use Valtra or DigitalOcean, but I do recommend Valtra because I used them for over 4 years and I still use them to this day. So I can definitely vouch for Valtra. Very reliable, very fast servers as well. It's entirely up to you to use whichever you want, but you can also see the VPSs that I recommend. I will leave the link in the description. So I've just received all the login data for my Contabo server. So what I got are the IP address, server type, the VNC, IP, and port. So VNC can be used to access your server remotely, and then the VNC password as well. And then you're going to get the username, and the username by default is root, and you're going to get a password for the root user and the type of operating system that you set up. You're going to get all of this in your Contabo first email. So if your account is new, you're also going to get your Contabo login details, and you can use that to log into your Contabo dashboard. We want to log into our server, and now that we have all the details, we can do that. We are interested in VPS control because we did set up a VPS. If you don't know which IP address you're working with or which is which, just go to your email address and look at the IP address that has been sent there. So you'll see the operating system, and if you're not sure, you can also come here under services. All right, so if you want to log into your server, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you restart your server. So the server will be restarted, and as soon as you do that, give it some time and just copy this, our IP address. We have the IP address, we have the user, our user is root, and we have the password that was sent for root, and you can find that in your Contabo email. To log in, so on Windows, I'm going to use Git Bash. You can download Git Bash for free and install it. If you are on a Mac or Linux, you can use Terminal to follow along. So just search for Git. If you're on Windows, that is, search for Git, download, and then click on that. You want to download it for Windows. Since you're on Windows, you're probably following along on Windows. Choose Windows and install it. And once you install it, it's going to come with everything we need. And we're going to use Git Bash for this tutorial. Once you install it, just come back to Windows and then search for Git. We want to work with Git Bash. You can see there's Git GUI and there's Git CMD, but I only want to use Git Bash. To log in, type SSH and the user is root at the IP address. So with this, I think you can paste. Let's see how you can paste. That is at root at, and then you can paste, and you can do shift insert to paste. And as soon as I do that, it's going to ask me for the password. And you can see it's asking me to authorize this into my hosts file. I'm going to type yes to affirm that, and it will be added to my hosts file. So it will be a known host on my computer, and I can access it without any problems. We need to add the password, so you can paste it in here by doing shift insert. If you just do that, you can paste using shift insert, yes. And you won't see the password as you type it in or as you paste it in. So just press enter, and if it is correct, you should be logged into your server. There we go. That's how to log into your Contabo server. Of course, the first thing you want to do is you want to update your server. So since we are still using root, I can just do apt update, enter. Let's see if there are any updates. All right, so you can see 4 packages can be upgraded. So let's do apt upgrade to upgrade, enter, then Y, enter. So just let it update, and that will be pretty much it. So you've seen how you can set up your Ubuntu server on Contabo and then log into your Ubuntu server VPS if you want to start setting it up. So just remember that we are going to start using this post to set up our server. So there we go. Our updates are done. If you want to log out of your server, you can just do exit. And that's going to log you out of your server. Okay, so let's continue in the next video. And in the next video, what I want us to do is I want us to come in here and we are going to create a new pseudo user. The link to this post is in the description. And in this video, we're going to create a new pseudo user so that we don't have to use the root user in upcoming videos. In upcoming setup, we will not have to use the root user. To create a new user, you will just use that command. You can find the link to this post in the description. Add user, and then that's the name of the user. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Let me just copy this because I really don't want to type. I will come back to Git Bash. I will call my user new user 21, enter. And then you need to add a password for your new Ubuntu user. We're going to give them a strong password. Retype the password. Okay, so the password has been updated successfully. So I'm just going to press enter until I'm done with all of this. Y, and then enter. Okay, so is the information correct? Yes. So let me just clear the screen once again. So once we've created the new user, the next step is for us to make that user into a pseudo user. So we can give them pseudo privileges, and to do that, we are just going to copy this. This is going to give them pseudo privileges so that they can run the sudo command. If they need to do anything that the root user normally does, they'll just add sudo to it and they will be able to do whatever command that is. I'm going to paste in that. The user that we created was new user 21. I'll press enter, and that's going to give them the sudo privileges. Let me open up a new Git Bash window, and we're going to try and log in with our new user. I will open a new window of Git Bash. We can just do SSH that, And now instead of logging in as root, let's log in as the new user. New user 21. So what we want to do is we want to test if this user actually has the sudo privileges. Enter the password that you set up for your user. There we go. We're logged in as the new user that we've set up, and that is evident there. You can see we're logged in as that user. Now the next thing is let's try and see if we can use sudo. Now that we've given this user the sudo privileges, let's test if we can use sudo. So I'm just going to do sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade -y. So this is just to try and update the server, and if they can do this, then they can use sudo privileges in all the upcoming commands that we're going to do. So enter. The first time that you use the sudo command, you need to add a password for the user. So the password that you created for this user, add that. And there we go. Since I can see that this command is running without any problems, it means that we can use sudo to do everything that we need to do, and we no longer need the root user. From now on, everything that you do, use this user that you created. For me, this is a user. For you, it will definitely be different. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. In the next video, let's see what you need to do. Now, the next step is for us to set up SSH. So I'm going to set up SSH authentication using git bash, and I'm going to use this part. And in this video, what I want us to do is I want us to set up SSH authentication for our Ubuntu server. So if you want to log in using SSH keys, then this video is for you. The post that I will use for this is this, and you'll find the link in the description. And even if you don't, just go to my website and you can search for this title. Okay. If you're on Windows, follow with this post. If you're using a Mac or you're using Linux, then come to this other post, generate SSH keys, and use them to log into your CentOS RHEL Debian server. This is for Mac and Linux users. Okay, it's a very long post, but it has everything that you'll need, to set up your server, to set up SSH authentication on your server. And as well, you can come to bizanosa.com and search for the post here, or you'll find the link in the description below. I'm going to use this since I'm on Windows, and I'm just going to scroll down up to the part where I have this thing for SSH authentication. And you can even follow along with the video. If you just click there, it's going to take you to this timestamp on YouTube where you can watch how I did it on a Debian server. Debian and Ubuntu, almost the same thing, so it doesn't really matter. It's still going to work on your Ubuntu server. Let's start. And since I'm on Windows, the first thing I want to do is I want to create a folder, and that folder is where I'm going to store my keys. If you have git bash installed on your Windows, you're going to have this folder. If you can't see it, just enable hidden folders on your Windows and you're going to see it. I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to call it Ubuntu server so that we can just differentiate them. So all our SSH keys will be stored inside here in our root directory, and this is just the root directory. Okay, the root directory is your username. On your Windows, your username, you can get to your root directory. If you go to your C drive, if you go to your local disk drive, and then you go to users, now your username, that will be your root directory. And instead of using this link, the tilde, this just replaces that with your root directory. Okay, so that's for git bash, and even on Linux it's like that. So if you come here under SSH, you're going to see that I do have these different folders. These are some tutorials I've done in the past. That's why they're here. We're going to create a new one for our Ubuntu, and this is where we're going to store the keys, the private and the public key for our Ubuntu server. So I'm going to call it Ubuntu server. Let me just remove the space. Okay, so once we create the folder, so we've created the folder, we're going to generate our keys, and we're going to generate it inside of the folder we've created. Okay, so to generate your keys, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to use that, and this is just the command that tells the system to generate a new key, and we're going to generate a key with this type, and the type for our key is going to be an RSA key, and the bytes for our key is going to be 4096. You can create 2048 if you want to, but we're going to do 4096, and this is just a comment. You can even leave that out if you don't want to, okay? And then this is where we want to store our key. So we're going to store our key there. This is going to be the name of our key, okay? Two keys are going to get generated. We're going to generate a public key, and we're going to generate a private key. A public key is going to have this name plus.pub, and you're going to see it once we've generated it. So let me just copy this, and I'm going to copy that and put it, and I'm going to put it inside of this txt file so that I can just paste in things without having to type them. So SSH key gen, this, we don't need to change anything there. I'll just leave that as it is. That's just a comment. You can change. This is going to be treated as a comment. You can just add it. It can even be something that reminds you of this key. So SSH and the folder, what was the name of that folder? The name of the folder for our key was Ubuntu server. I'm going to copy that. And that's going to be the folder inside of .ssh, paste, and then we can just call it that, okay? It doesn't really matter, right? Or we can just call it Ubuntu or whatever. This is going to be the name of our key. You can call it whatever you want. You can even remove that bit. You can call it anything that you want. You get the point. So I'm going to copy this. This is going to generate our key, and it's going to generate both keys. So let's come back into Git Bash where we already logged in. Please note that you need to do this on your local computer. You're supposed to generate your key on your local computer. The folder where you're storing your keys will be on your local computer. So generate this on your local computer. Even if you're on Linux, make sure you remember that on the other end if you're following the other post. And I can log out, or I can just open a new instance of Git Bash, and then I'm going to paste that. Remember, we're doing this on our local computer. So the name of our key, the key will be stored inside of that folder, and we're generating a 4096-bit key because Ubuntu 20.04 supports that. All right, so the key is being generated, but you're being asked for a passphrase. So make sure you enter a passphrase, which is going to be a password for your key. So every time you need to log in with your key, it won't be automatic. You'll first of all get asked to add your passphrase. So you can add that, but since I'm just doing a demo, I'm not going to add it. I'm just going to skip. But make sure you add one, and make sure it's one that you can remember, because if you forget it, you will not be able to log in, and you may have to do a few resets on your server just to make sure that you can access it once again. So I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to enter again. So once I press enter, the key will be generated, and you can see that we've generated two keys. Okay, if you read that, you'll see that we have two keys now. We have the private and the public key. The .pub key, this is a public key, and the other one is a private key. So I can just copy this and put them together with this. Once we generate the key, we need to add them to our server. We have generated our two keys. The next step, let's add our keys onto the server. So add the public SSH key to your Linux server. So by the way, you can use this for any server that you're using, whether you're using CentOS, you're using Red Hat, or even the new ones, Alma Linux, Rocky Linux, Debian. You can follow with this post, and it's going to work for any of those Linux servers. So let's add the private key. Let's add the public key to our server. Let me just copy this, and then we're going to replace things as we need to. Copy it here, and then I'm going to explain it. So this is going to add our public key to the server. So SSH copy ID is going to add our key to the server, and this is just telling us the identity of the key that we want to use. So the path to the public key, and then for the user that we want to add it for. So here you're going to add your IP address plus the user that you created, not for the root. Add this for the user that you created, and the user that I created was new user 21, and then I will add my IP address later. So SSH copy ID, the path to the key. Now I will copy this because I know that my key is inside here. Both my keys, if I go into that folder, Ubuntu server, you can see we have our public key and the private key. This is the one that we need to add into our server, and we're going to add it. Since this is the name of our key, I will copy and I will replace that with this because this is a path to our key. And then just remember that with .pub is a public key, without .pub is a private key. So let me add .pub because we need to add the public key to our server, not the private. All right, I can just copy this and add this to our server. I'm still doing this on my local computer. If you see this, this is my local computer. So I'm going to paste that. I'm going to paste. Okay, I must have copied that line. I shouldn't have. Let me come back and I will paste this. Okay, so this is going to generate this is going to add our key to our server. But first of all, we need to add our IP address there. Let me go to Contabo and find my IP. After adding my IP, I will just press enter and I'll be asked to log in as this user so that I can add my key. So just remember the password for the new user that you set up, because in a moment we'll be asked to log in. So it's adding the details that we need. Okay, so we need to add the password for that, for the user that you created, so that you can log in and add the public key. Just like that, you have now set up SSH. You've now set up SSH authentication for your Ubuntu server. You can see one key has been added, but I still need to do one thing before I try to log in. Let me come back to where I'm logged in into my server. So this now I'm doing this on my server where I'm logged in. Let me just press enter to see if I'm still logged in. Okay, yeah, I'm still logged in. We want to change the permissions for the key that we've added, because on Linux, if you don't add the correct permissions, you will not be able to log in with those keys. We need to change the permission for the SSH folder, and we need to change the permission for the SSH authorized keys. Now this is where the key has been added. That's why we are changing it to root level permission. Now this is a folder. Okay, this is a file, and we can combine two. So this is like combining two commands. So we could have easily just have pasted in that, and then once this has been done, you come in and you paste that, but you want to do this in one line. So I'm just going to copy this entire thing. I will bring it back to where I'm logged in because I need to change permissions for those two items. Press enter, and of course you need to add the sudo password, the password for this user. Since there is no error, there is no output, that means that the permissions have been changed, and you can actually look, if you can actually see the permissions for that. Okay, if you just do ls-la, you'll see the list of all the files, but I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do that. You can just do that to see, and you'll see that the permission has been changed. Now this is very important, because if you don't do this, you'll never be able to log into your server. Okay, once you've changed the permission, this is now the next important thing. You have to change ownership for that file to the user that you created, because if you don't, that file is now owned by root, and this user needs to access that file so that they can log in. They need to access the public key that was added there. Right now it is at 600. This is a root level permission. Okay, for you to access this, you need to have sudo privileges or you need to be root. We have to change the ownership for that file into the new user that we created, because if we don't do that, we won't be able to log in. We will never ever be able to log in. So let's just come in here and paste that in there, and I need to copy the user that I created. Make sure it's the user that you created, And where there is Joe, just replace that. So this is a group of Joe. Paste the group of Joe, and then the user of Joe, you give it the user that you created. And then of course, the home directory folder, you want it to be this guy. So everything inside there, you're giving permission to this guy. You're giving ownership to this fella, this new user. Okay, you're giving ownership to the group and to the user for anything inside of this. And the public key that we added is inside of this folder. So let's go back to git bash. I will paste that in there. Press enter. And as soon as I do this, now I will be able to log in via SSH. Let me open up a new git bash instance. Okay, so let's try to log into our server using the SSH keys. Okay, let me come back to this place, and we're going to test our SSH authentication by trying to log in. So I'm just going to copy this, copy that. I can explain what they do. All right, so you remember initially we logged in as SSH user at IP, and that was it. Okay, and then we were asked for a password. Right now we need to add the user server IP and an identity for a key. Okay, this tells the system that we want to log in using a key with this identity. Okay, so the identity for our key, we can just copy that right here because our key was generated as that, and I'm just going to paste that in there. Now the server IP, I will take that, copy. Let me just remove everything here, paste. So I'm going to add the IP address once I copy it from Contabo. So let me just copy all the way up to here. Copy. Now the way that I've shown you how to set up SSH is a really nice one because you can create multiple keys for different servers. If you do it any other way, you're probably going to have problems if you try to create other SSH keys. Now let's come here where we're not logged in, and I'm going to paste this. And remember, I haven't added my IP address. As soon as I add it, I will be logged into my server because I did not add a passphrase. If you added a passphrase while you are generating the key, you'll need to enter your passphrase. So let me just go back because I need to enter my IP address there. Paste. So that's the private key that we want to log in with. Remember, the public key was added on the server. The private key is now the one we're using to log in. So if I press enter, I should log in automatically. And you can see for me, I was logged in automatically because I did not add a passphrase. However, if you added a passphrase, which you probably most definitely should do, then you'll need to enter the passphrase as soon as you press enter. Now let's go back, and the last thing that I want to do is I want us to disable the root user and the password authentication, and I want to do this in this video. So I'm just going to copy this. So what we're doing here is we're going to make it such that people cannot log in with the key without our key. They have to log in using a key. So if you don't have a key, you won't be able to log in, and we're also going to disable root login. So let's do that in the SSH configuration file. So if I do that, enter. Okay, now we are here on the SSH file. What I need to look for is I need to change two things here. First of all, I need to change permit root login to no, and I need to change password authentication also to no. So let me just go and search for them. So I'm using Nano. You can see we are editing using Nano. So with Nano, I can just copy this and then I can search for it. So if you want to search for anything on Nano, just press Ctrl W, and then since I'm using git bash, I can just do shift insert to copy, to paste I mean. And then when I press enter, it's going to look for that. And you can see permit root login has been set to yes. So we don't want root to be able to log in. So we want to set this to no. And we're going to delete yes. And then the next thing that I want us to look for is password authentication. So let me just copy password authentication from here. And we're going to search for it in we're going to search for it in the SSH config file. So once again, let's do Control W, and then I'm going to do Shift Insert to paste, enter, and you can see password authentication has been commented out right there. It has been commented out, and we need to uncomment it. I'm just going to uncomment it, remove the hash sign, and that's going to uncomment it. And then we need to change the value to no, and then I will delete yes. Okay, so once I do that, I can just do Control X. Now just note that there are other things you can change in this file. If you want to be really strict, you can change lots of things in these files. Okay, so maybe you want to reduce the number of times somebody can try to log in. You can reduce that there. The maximum sessions, how many people do you want to be logged in simultaneously? You can change that there. Just make sure you don't make things too strict, because you might end up blocking yourself out. Okay, just Google stuff before you change anything. Google stuff and see the implication of the changes you're going to make. So I'm just going to do Control X to exit out of Nano, Control X, and then Y to accept the changes, and then enter to exit out completely. The next thing is I need to restart SSH, and I don't want to type this, so I'm just going to copy it from here. SSH, let me use sudo service SSH restart. I will do Shift Insert to paste, press enter, and as soon as I do this, now if somebody tries to log in, they will not be able to log in as the root user, and they will not be able to use the password. So that was the objective of this video. The objective was very clear, and it was to set up SSH authentication for our server. And the link to this post is in the description, so you don't have to worry about that. You can just come, you can even come here on my site, and you can search for this post if the link is not there, but I'll make sure I add it for you. So that's it for this video. Make sure you follow everything as I've done it, because if you don't, you may end up making various mistakes that will have serious ramifications, such as you not being able to log into your server. So make sure you follow everything step by step. Just be patient and follow along step by step. These things are very easy once you get used to doing them. Okay, so just make sure that you follow along step by step. And that's it for this video. In the next, we're going to do the final thing, and the final thing is creating a swap file in our server, and I'm just going to use this. Okay, this is for Debian, but I'm just going to use this because it's still going to work on Ubuntu. So that's the last thing that we're going to do before we install our control panel. After that, we're going to install the control panel, and we'll see how to add websites and how to run your website, work with DNS, and so on. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in another one. A swap file is a file that is used as memory when the actual physical memory runs out on your server. So if you have a low memory VPS, you definitely need to create a swap file. So on a VPS, you don't have access to your disks, and therefore a swap file is the next best thing. You can also create a swap disk, but of course we want to create a swap file since we are on a VPS. If you are using Contabo, you can see that you get 8 GB of RAM for that, and you get 16 for that. So you can choose whichever plan you want, and you see that you probably won't need the swap file, but I'm just doing this for the benefit of people who are following on a different VPS. Maybe you're using Vultr or DigitalOcean, then in that case you probably need to add a swap file so that you can have memory that will be used in case your server runs out of memory. Just as a caution to anybody following along, that this is how it should be. This image, you see this image, this is how it should be. My website was stripping out these double hyphens. Okay, these are double hyphens. If you need to follow along, you'll need to know that. So let's just copy this. I'll just copy this only, sudo swap on. So the link to this page is in the description. You don't need to type this stuff. So I will paste that in there, sudo swap on, and that's hyphen show. And you can see, okay, we do have a swap file already. So you can see Ubuntu on Contabo has already created a swap file for us. So this means that we do have a swap file. So we can just create another one, and I'm just creating this for the benefit of people that want to see how to create a swap file on their VPS if they don't already have one. So the first thing, this was just to see if we do have a swap file, and remember these are 2 hyphens. Okay, step 1, we're going to create the file that will be used for swapping. Okay, so we need to create a file and allocate a size to that file. So I'll just copy these things without changing anything. I will just paste that in there, enter. Okay, now this file has been created. You can do ls-la, and you're going to see that in your root directory, there's a file called my swap file. Explaining it once again, that's the name of the file. Okay, so you can change the name to whatever. You can call it my swap file, you can call it the new swap file, you can even call it file py, whatever you want to call it. And this is going to allocate the size for the file. So this is going to allocate 2 gigabytes to this file. If you want to allocate 1 gigabyte, just put 1 gigabyte. If you want to allocate 4, put 4 gigabytes. Okay, we've created the file and allocated that. Now the next step is we need to change the permissions for the file that we've created. So I'm just going to do that. And remember that you can create it inside another folder if you want to. That's okay. Okay, if you want to put it inside of another folder, that's okay. You can see here it is in the root directory. So let us change the permissions for the file. And once we change the permissions, we need to now make it a swap file, and we also need to turn the swap on. So this is going to make it, and this is going to make the file a swap file, and this is going to turn it on, swap on. So I'm just going to do this in one line. Copy. I will paste that and then enter. And now our swap is on. Now the swap is on, yes, but if we restart the server, it's not going to recognize the swap file. So what we need to do is we need to add it inside of this file. And inside of this file, we're going to add that so that we can let the system know that that is a swap file that should be restarted with the system. So we're going to copy that. So any memory that we have, they're usually listed inside of this FS tab. And this is the one that usually tells the system when it restarts that these are the memories that we currently have. So let's just bring our cursor down, and we need to copy this. So if you change the name of the file or you change its location, make sure that is reflected in this. So for me, I'm just copying what is already here so that I don't have to type. Paste. And then I'll do Control X to exit out of Nano, and then yes, I'll enter Y because I want to accept the changes, and then I will press enter to accept the changes. Now, if I restart the system, our swap file will be there. Okay, and even if I do sudo swap on show, remember sudo swap on show has 2 hyphens. Oh, but for me, let me just do sudo free -h. This is going to show me all the memory that is available for me to use. So let's come back here. Sudo free -h. This is going to show us all the memory that is available, and you can see our memory is that, and we still have that available memory. And our swap file, if you remember, for my server, I already had 2 GB of swap file, and I also created another 2 GB of a swap file. So I have a total of 4 GB of swap memory. That's why you can see I have 4 GB of swap memory, and it is unused because it is only used when this one runs out. As soon as you run out of memory, they will use your swap file. Your applications will all be moved to your swap memory. Okay, so that's what it's all about. So in this video, you've seen how you can create a swap file on Ubuntu, even though I used this guide that clearly states is for Debian. Even on CentOS, if you want to, even on Alma Linux, you can just follow this and it's going to create the swap file the same way. All right, so that's it for this part. In the next video, we're going to see how to install our control panel, and then once we do that, we'll see how we can work with DNS and then add websites, and we're going to see how we can add a WordPress website. We're going to see how you can change your host name on your server, on your Ubuntu server, and you can follow the same steps for Debian if you are using Debian. But I will be doing this on Ubuntu because this server is an Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. In this video, we are going to change the server host name, and I will be using Contabo for this example. If you're also using Contabo and you come here under reverse DNS management and we're interested in this IP, you'll see that the reverse PTR record is that, and we want to change this to something else that we can use. So you should definitely use an actual domain, and the domain should be one where your panel is installed. So if you're installing a control panel like STSCP Cyber Panel, it should give the domain for where it is installed there. To change the hostname on Ubuntu or Debian, I have this post here. You can just follow this post, and I will leave the link in the description. For the control panel, I will install it in a subdomain, panel1.javascriptbear.com. I want to change my hostname to that. The panel will be installed in a subdomain. You can install it in a full domain if you want to, but I choose to use a subdomain. Come back here, and you can see this is currently the first part of our host name. So we want to change that. Let's first of all see our host name. To check your host name, you can just do host name, and that is our full host name, and we want to change it. So if we come here, you can change the host name. You'll need to edit it there. I want to change my host name to panel1 dot panel1.javascriptbear.com. So this is going to be my host name. So let's come back to the post, and I just need to edit this file and change it there. So if we go into this file, if we go into the hostname file, we'll see that our hostname is listed there, and we can change it. If we come back to where we're logged into our server, make sure you've logged into your server. So I'm going to paste that in there, and you can see that's our host name. So the first thing I need to do is I need to remove this and replace it with this. So I'm going to copy this entire thing, and then I can just use my cursor. I'll just press delete and delete everything in there. The name of my server, I'll delete that there, and then I can paste. So if you want to paste here, and I'm using Git Bash, you can use Shift Insert to paste. If you're using Putty, you'll just right click to paste. If you're on terminal, I think it's Control Shift V. So just paste the way that your command line tool will allow you. So for me, I'll do Shift Insert. Then I will close Nano by doing Control X, and then accept the changes. Y to accept the changes, and then press Enter to exit out of Nano. So the next thing is to change this in our hosts file. So we've changed it in the host name. So the server knows the host name is that, the one we've added, but we need to reflect that in the system. So to do that, we need to change something in our hosts file. So copy, paste, enter, and you can see this is the one we need to change. Okay, and we also need to change that. Okay, so every instance of the old host name, we're going to change that with the new host name. And let's just come back and copy this, copy the new host name, and we're changing this on Ubuntu, but this is going to work for you even if you're on Debian. So let me find my cursor, and I will just move my cursor to that point, and let me delete this name. And then I will add a space there, Shift Insert to paste. And then for this other one, since I'm using a subdomain, the first part of my host name will be what is here. But if you're using a full domain, just use the full name of your domain. And then let's scroll down again for IPv6. For IPv6, let's scroll down, and we're going to delete this one as well. and then we paste the new one. And for this side, it will be panel 1. So as I've said, for the part where I've put panel 1, if you're not using a subdomain, just put the full domain name there as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So I'll do Control X, Y, enter. We need to restart the server. There we go. Now we're logged in. So now, the last time we checked for the hostname, it brought that. Let's see what it brings this time round. And I'm just going to clear the screen. There you go. Your hostname has been changed. So that's how you can change your hostname on Ubuntu, Debian, or any Linux server. But since we are on Contabo, I'm also going to need to change this inside of my Contabo dashboard. So let me come back into, and you can see as soon as we change it, it's changed it here as well. Let's go and change it inside of Contabo as well. So here in Contabo, I will click there to edit, and I will update this one as well. Paste that. Okay, that's not the one. I will paste it in there, and then I will save. This one as well, you can change the second one for the IPv6 if you've enabled IPv6. So your reverse DNS records have been changed on Contabo, and you can just add them as well on Cloudflare. So in this video, you've seen how you can change the host name for your server, and I was using Ubuntu as an example, but you can do this on Debian. You can even try it on other Linux distributions. I'm sure the process should be the same. So change the host name into the domain name or the subdomain name that you're going to use for installing your control panel. Maybe you want to install CyberPanel, HTTP, Virtual Min. You need to change the host name to match that, and that's why I was doing this. So in the next video, I'm going to install my control panel. So I will see you in that video.